Hey everyone, I posted yesterday around Target Australia, some of the SEO areas there, and one of the comments flagged something interesting and also challenging that I want to talk through a little bit more. In that there's both Target Australia and Target.com, a US major retailer. As you can see, despite the fact here that Google's telling me they've got the same logo, same name, same sort of retail online and in-store outlets, there's no business connection or no affiliation between the two there, which is something from an SEO perspective when we see the cross-ranking challenges that are in play, definitely has an impact. So target.com.au, as we saw here, around 3 million visitors or so a month. Target.com overall, if we look at a global perspective, has got around 40 million visitors or so, largely US, which is huge. But we can see there Australia 451,000, which out of the 3 million or so, if you add that on, about 15-20% or so not an insignificant number. We can see that this trend of Target.com ranking in Australia was a lot worse back in 22, over 1 million monthly visitors. It's now down to about 500,000 or so, but still that's a large volume of people that are seeing Target.com rank in Australia when they're searching from Australia. If you look at some of those keywords, again, it's products, it's types of things that you would expect: hoverboard, deep fryer, milk frother, heated blankets, wall art, rugs, so on and so forth. What you can see if we take an individual keyword, again, pressure cooker, for example, Target.com has been ranking pretty much in position one to five or so for the last couple of years. The target.com.au domain page equivalent here is popping in and out very, very sporadically, but the rest of the time it's not ranking at all. In terms of what that looks like in search results, again, if we do a branded search, Target rugs, we can see here that there's the Australia site, target.com.au. We see Target Australia as the site name element there as well. Target US below that, .com. Very similar icons or logos, I guess. Very similar sort of approach and what you would expect there. Something you can see that Target Australia has done or tried to do is put the country, those elements in the meta title. This is an approach that has worked well. I've done it on the past in clients' multinational issues with cross-ranking, just clearly identifying, hey, this is brand plus, this particular country. But what we're seeing since Google rolled out this sort of site name, featuring in search results, is that a lot of the time they'll strip out a lot of those branded elements, even if you put them in your meta title, and even if you say Target Australia, floor rugs and mats, home decor, all sort of categories and sort of elements there. Google will strip that out and just focus on what they think is the core area of your site. So aside from the site name, that sort of site link there, there's no other way for you to clearly flag that this is an Australia one or this is a US one. What we can see what that looks like on a more general search, if we search for picture frames, for example, Kmart, Officer, it's all big Australian retailers, frames now. Target here a listing, again, we can see that it's .com, but to the average person, the average consumer, they see that red circle logo. It's very similar, if not what they think the Target logo is. See the Target name, Target.com, there's no reason that they wouldn't click through to that. And if you look at what the experience is when they actually land on a page like this, there's not a huge amount of elements to flag that they're not on an Australian site. Yes, we can see, a US postcode, North Dartmouth is not anywhere in Australia. Circle Week's coming 4/7/4/13. So again, American dates are the other way around to what we use in Australia. So if you're a little bit savvy, if you know what you're looking for, you might sort of flag and go, hey, this isn't an Australian website. But I would wager that a vast majority of people wouldn't pick up on this and wouldn't necessarily, realize until they tried to add something to cart, go to ship, go click to collect, whatever it is, and be met with sort of a bunch of errors or sort of dead ends there. So definitely not a great experience. But part of the challenge here is, from Target Australia's perspective, what can you do? The businesses aren't controlled centrally at a sort of global or group level. They're not the same website, so they won't have exactly the same sort of categories or structure. You couldn't try and implement a sort of hreflang situation pointing to the correct country versions of each. And even if you did sort of put together that proposal and sort of go to the US site and try and ask them to do it, there's very little incentive for them to do that, given that while we saw that the US site's taken about 500,000 visitors from Australian searches and clicks, The Australia site's taking 13,000 from the US in terms of where we're ranking over there. So it's not exactly an equal weighted scenario or challenge that exists. And I dare say that, the US side has no real incentive and, like I said, no business connection to try and help out from this perspective. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think, what you would try and look at from a SEO and technical approach for Target Australia. What would you try and do? What could you do on a site where you don't have control over this massive US behemoth with basically the same domain name except for the .com.au part, much more authority, much more credibility, traffic, all of those sort of elements. How would you approach it and try and get the US site ranking less and the Australia site ranking more? Let me know your thoughts.